What's up, everybody? My name is Ryan Thomas, and you're watching the Thomas Take Sports Podcast live on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast YouTube channel. I'm repping a old T-shirt tonight as a shout out to the Buffalo Sabres. You got the Fantastic Four. This was the day that had Jury, Pominville, Vanek, and Briere, and that was back in the day where you had the Fab Four, the Fantastic Four. Now we have Jason Pominville back on the Buffalo Sabres after a trade that was made today where the Sabres traded both Marcus Foligno and Tyler Ennis for Jason Pominville and John Scaletta, from the Minnesota Wild. So a wild swap indeed. No pun intended, I should say. But I want to talk about the wide world of MMA, a sport that I love dearly, a sport that I really enjoy watching. And thank you to all the people that have viewed my videos on the UFC 213 prediction. That has been a very successful video. So I wanted to kind of continue that with what I want to add on to the Bellator side of mixed martial arts. I feel like Bellator is growing. It's getting better. There's more stars in Bellator now than there ever has been before. And I want to talk about Bellator and what could be next for a few of the fighters in the Bellator brand, namely Chael Sonnen. What is next for Chael Sonnen after his victory over Vanderlei Silva? A dominant victory indeed. We saw Chael really utilize his top pressure, really maintain top position virtually throughout the entire fight on Vanderlei Silva in Vanderlei's first fight in almost 4 years. So what is next for Chael Sonnen? Chael stated that he wants to fight Fedor Emelianenko. Bellator president Scott Coker stated that is not a fight that really interests Scott Coker, or he believes will interest the Bellator fans. And I would tend to agree. There's a couple options out there for Chael Sonnen. One of them is Rory McDonald. As crazy and wild of an option as that would be, being that Rory is a longtime welterweight. Rory has stated that he wants to compete in the middleweight division inside the sport of MMA, and that is the 185-pound division, a division that Chael Sonnen kind of ruled the roost of at 185 as a contender in the UFC. So that is an option. But one option that is really intriguing to me that I really am really the moment it popped into my head, I thought, wow, that would really be a fight. Would be Chael Sonnen taking on former Pride light heavyweight champion, former UFC light heavyweight champion Quentin Rampage Jackson. Now, Quentin Rampage Jackson is coming off a loss to King Mo Lawal, a fight that was, not the most entertaining, but he split 2 bouts with King Mo, and it was about that both King Mo and Quentin Rampage Jackson fought at heavyweight, which was virtually they didn't cut weight whatsoever for the fight, and Quentin Rampage Jackson was a little bit bigger than normal. But in terms of a business, in terms of the business side of the fight game, this is a fight that would really sell between Chael Sonnen and Quentin Jackson. Two guys that can really talk the talk and walk the walk inside the sport of MMA. Two of the best talkers in the history of the sport. Two legends of the sport. If Bellator wants to continue the Legends tour, so to speak, with Chael Sonnen, where he considered this the Legends ass whooping tour, Quentin Rampage Jackson would definitely suffice. I think Quentin will weigh around 230 to 240. Not sure what he's weighing in at now, but for the Mo fight, he weighed around 250. So Chael wouldn't have to cut any weight. He could fight at 220, 230. Quentin could fight at 230, 240. And I think that would be an interesting fight. Maybe the days have come and gone where Quentin can get down to the 220s, 230s. I don't know if that's the case, but that would be a fun fight. I think Bellator would benefit really well from a fight like that. A lot of promotion featuring Chael, the mouthpiece that he is and Quentin Rampage Jackson, the mouthpiece that he is, I think that would be a great fight. Quentin has one more fight on his Bellator contract, and then he could go back to the UFC, I believe. So I would definitely want to see that fight. The wrestler versus the power puncher. That would be an entertaining fight, entertaining build-up. And Bellator has a lot of options right now with what they can work with moving forward on that Bellator NYC event. I thought it was an event that offered a lot of entertaining outcomes, some that were completely unexpected. The double knockout that Fedor and Matt Mitrione, almost the double knockdown, I should say, that Matt Mitrione and Fedor Emelianenko had. The unexpected turn of events with Michael Chandler and his ankle injury versus Brent Primus, where Primus is now the Bellator lightweight champion due to the fact that Chandler rolled his ankle in that fight and he could not continue. Douglas Lima retaining the title versus Lorenz Larkin. Most people thinking that the UFC guy could come right in and take the belt from Lima, and that was not the case. So there was a lot of really interesting narratives. Heather Hardy getting a dominant win inside the sport of MMA, the former boxer, now MMA fighter. On the Spike card, Bellator 180. Ryan Bader, as I mentioned earlier, winning the Bellator light heavyweight title in his first fight in the Bellator Cage. So there was a lot to really work with. And really, if Bellator wants to give Chael Sonnen a title shot, they could. I don't know if a title victory over a guy like Vanderlei at that point would really sell well. I think the Mo Lawals of the world are much more maligned to get that title shot over Chael Sonnen. I think King Mo should get that shot. They should do Bader versus King Mo because that was the original fight that Bader was set up with. Being that Bader's got 2 victories now over Phil Davis is kind of in a real awkward spot, most likely to be on that Pennsylvania card. So really only time will tell who he fights next, but there's a lot of interesting options in that Bellator light heavyweight division. James Gallagher, a star in the making, to say the least. I'm very interested to see what Bellator does with a guy like him. Does he get a title shot now versus Pitbull? Does he get a title shot, down the road? Only time will tell. I definitely think that this is a guy that could be a future champion inside the sport of MMA. So what was your take on Bellator NYC? What did you guys think of it, the hardcore MMA fans? What do you guys think of my fight pick for Chael Sonnen, for what could be next for Chael Sonnen? Rampage Jackson versus Chael Sonnen. I would watch that. I would tune in to virtually every preview that they have of that fight. I'm a longtime MMA fan, a hardcore MMA fan, and I know that Rampage Jackson and Chael Sonnen are right up there with Conor McGregor in terms of trash talk and how they can hype a fight and what they bring to the table outside the cage. So I would love it. Scott Coker, that's the fight that I want. Rampage versus Chael. Take care, guys. Thanks for tuning into the Thomas Take Sports Podcast on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast YouTube channel. Tune in more often as I will continue to post more videos on the YouTube channel. Take care.